Self-care and self-concept go hand in hand, but I think it becomes very confusing and convoluted when people use self-concept in a way that just doesn't really make sense and self-care in a way that can feel cheesy. Self-care is so much more than just taking a bubble bath. Although that can definitely be part of it and should be built into your day if that's something that you enjoy, it's not what it has to be in order for you to care for yourself. And in case you are new here and you have not heard me say this before, self-care is not selfish. It is an absolute necessity. And the way that it builds your self-concept and builds up the self-esteem and the way you feel about yourself is nothing short of absolutely miraculous. You just need to learn the tips and the tricks and kind of the way to present this in your own life to make sure that you are doing it in a way that makes sense and is actually benefiting you. And that's what we're going to be talking about today is the ways that self-care actually connects to your personal self-concept and how this shapes your world, like literally how the world is reflecting back to you. When you feel good on the inside, the world actually reflects it back to you. It's like your perception changes. You're able to see more of the opportunity that's available to you. And this begins with taking care of yourself, being nice to yourself, and doing things that truly fill your cup, even if it sounds kind of cheesy or feels a little ridiculous when you're first getting started, which I completely understand. I really struggled for a long time to figure out how to build true self-care and not something that I felt like I was faking or forcing into my everyday life versus doing this like forced feeling of gratitude for things that I didn't feel were actually in my life. I had to start in a way that was taking care of me and also recognizing the small wins that were getting better in my life. Like what was actually still in front of me now that I could truly appreciate and enjoy. And I did that through daily joys, which we'll get into a little bit further in this podcast. And with that, I would like to welcome you to Unleashing Happiness. I am your host, Cecilia Hendricks, and as always, I am super excited that you're here. I feel like life enjoyment and living a life that you truly love is something that we all absolutely deserve. And that doesn't mean that you're not going to have moments of feeling like ho-hum or not maybe in the best mood. It's not about feeling good constantly or always seeing the positive, but it is about learning how to shape your own moods and your focus and the way that you're caring for yourself, talking to yourself, treating yourself in the types of ways that build a life that you love. It builds gratitude. It creates joy. It makes you start to notice and see all the amazing opportunity that is around you. And the most beautiful part is that it doesn't have to be so overwhelming. It doesn't have to be something that you don't know how to shape your life into it. You don't know how to get started. You don't know how to feel other than forcing this like positive behavior. And that's not what we need. It's not that you won't start to feel more positive. I 100% believe that by doing these steps, following this process, taking care of yourself, you will 100% feel better as a human being, but it doesn't have to be a struggle. It should actually be enjoyable. This should be a fun journey of self-rediscovery. As we get started, I'd like for you to ask yourself a couple of questions. And you can pause the episode and just think about it, or if you have some pen and paper, write down your answers to this. But the first one is, yesterday, like within the past 24 hours, how have I shown up for myself? What is something I did for only me because I enjoy it? It's something that I want to do. I'm either nourishing my body, I'm nourishing my mind, I'm nourishing my soul. But how did I show up for myself? The next one is, how did you feel when doing that for yourself? Or how do you feel thinking about doing something for yourself? Like if you've looked back on the past 24 hours and you're like, there's been nothing. I've literally done nothing for myself in the past 24 hours. How do you feel thinking about doing something for you? Does it bring up feelings of excitement? Does it bring up feelings of overwhelm? Does it bring up feelings of guilt? Just consider how you would feel about that. And the last question is, when was the last time that you said something truly nice to yourself? Didn't put yourself down. Like you put on an outfit, you're like, man, I look fantastic. Or you did your makeup and you felt great about it. You went to the grocery store and picked out and made a really fantastic meal that you were super excited about. You patted yourself on the back for something new that you learned, something that you said nice to yourself. When was the last time that you actually intentionally did that? And is it something that you're doing regularly enough that you can automatically think of multiple ways? Like, do you ever tell yourself that you love you? That you actually love yourself? I've always found it a little sad when I've spoken to, especially more women than men, I'll say, but when I've spoken to so many women who have shared with me that they don't remember the last time they said they love themselves. And at this point, it feels almost awkward to say, like, hey, I love who I am. I love myself as a person. And I can tell you, I love myself. I have created love for myself. I have started to understand and appreciate more of the human being that I am and the way that I have gotten to where I am now, and just started to really lean into feeling this love for myself. And it's really quite a beautiful process once you get there. But I also want you to know that I started in a spot that was just not great, right? I put myself down a lot. I was doing very self-destructive behaviors. I sought validation from outside sources for just about everything. And I had to really look at me because I am created divinely. You are created divinely, right? God is literally in everything. I mean, everything. There is nothing in this world that is not God. And that includes you. It's not that God ends at your skin or God ends at your mind or your eyeballs or ends when you leave church. God is everywhere, and we are all created in this beautiful vision of God. And if you're uncomfortable with the word God, I understand based on your religious background. I'm not uncomfortable with the word God, but I'm definitely uncomfortable with some of the religious teachings that I was brought up with. I was brought up very Catholic. But so if you're uncomfortable with that, it's the same thing as like source or universe. To me, all one and the same, right? This is God. This is our creator. This is the reason that we're here. And God is literally everywhere, which means I am divinely made. You are divinely made. You can look around and see Christ in absolutely everything and everyone. An exercise that I really recommend that you do is to sit and consider if you were to trade places for the next 24 hours with the person that you love more than anybody in the world, right? Like whether it's your child or your spouse or your best friend or your mother or your father, think of someone that you love so deeply. Honestly, even to the point of like a pet, think about trading places with your pet for the next 24 hours. If you were in that body, you're this person, how would you treat them? Would you treat them better than you treat yourself? Would you talk to them the way that you talk to yourself? Would you maybe do some of my favorite old activities and habits for some reason, weighing them every single morning, seeing if they lost half a pound, seeing if they gained a quarter of a pound? Would you put down the way that their hair looked? Would you make a commentary about how their smile is crooked? Would you be concerned if they had an extra 5 pounds? How would you talk to them? How would you treat them? What would you do if you had their body for the day? I can tell you that for my greatest loved ones, I would treat it with absolute beauty and care. I would put it on a pedestal and make sure they had the best day ever, that they enjoyed their life, that they got to go out and experience things, and that I really looked around through their eyes and got to see the world through their eyes and understand how they feel. And you should be treating yourself that exact same way. Every day you should wake up and treat yourself as if you are the most loved person in your world. And this is how it ties back to self-care and self-concept. When you care about yourself this way that we just discussed, your self-concept rises. Even if it feels awkward when you first start, the more that you return to treating yourself this way, the more that your self-concept, the way that you view yourself, the worthiness that you give yourself as this beautiful, divine, very loved, absolutely adored creature increases because you see yourself in a new light. You start to respect yourself and love yourself, and it can feel really uncomfortable at first. I spent 30 days, probably about a year and a half ago, telling myself every day in the mirror that I love myself. And I can tell you that at first it felt a little awkward, right? I'm talking to myself in the mirror. But the more that I did it, the more comfortable I got with it. And the more that I was like, oh no, you look really good today. My hair looks fantastic. I feel really pretty. I was super funny today because I find me hilarious. I was sassy today. I gave somebody a compliment walking down the street. That makes me feel really good. I like doing that because put out, get back, right? The world is a mirror. Which you send out, you're going to get back. And the more that you love yourself, the more you're going to see the world reflecting back to you. And when I say that self-care doesn't have to be a bubble bath, this is what I mean. It can definitely be incorporated, but self-care goes well beyond a bubble bath. Self-care is loving yourself. Self-care is talking nicely to you. Self-care is caring for you as a human being because you are really all that you got. You are your number one. Your perspective, your eyeballs, your experiences, that's what you've got here on this earth. And we only have so much time, and I don't want anybody spending it putting themselves down. Find ways to lift yourself up. And if you need to start somewhere, start by telling yourself, I love you in the mirror, even if it feels awkward, right? Just say, I love you once a day. I love you. Then at night, spend about 3 minutes writing down things you appreciate about yourself. Just the most small, tiny things that you did throughout the day that you appreciate, that you would tell your other loved one that they did well. If you look at your children and you're like, I give them a high five when they learn how to ride a bike, well, then you should give yourself a high five when you learn how to do something new. It is not being conceited. It is not being vain to take care of yourself. And if somebody from the outside feels that you are being conceited or being too into yourself, who cares? Honestly, like you're the one who has to live in this life. So you make the choices of how you want to feel and the way that you want to treat yourself. I'd like to start to close out the episode with some other ways that you can incorporate self-care into your days. And one of those ways is by looking at your daily joys. So a daily joy is where you take a list and you start writing out things that you just enjoy doing, right? So it could be something very small, like the taking of a bubble bath, smelling some flowers, baking, drinking a cup of coffee, chatting on the phone, whatever it is. But you just start to write out a list of things that bring you enjoyment, and they can be quote unquote small, right? That's kind of the point. It's just like a daily joy so that you can start to pay attention to the things that you're enjoying and that bring you joy and happiness in life in a very natural way. And then from that list, you're going to actually start to consciously choose things that you're going to do during the day. And we're going to use our habit stacking tools to make sure that this sticks. And one of those tools is to actually decide when you're going to do this. So it could be while my coffee is brewing, I'm going to meditate, right? And so that's going to bring you a daily joy. Or it could be while I am drinking my cup of coffee, I'm going to sit on the front porch and read a book. And you'll make it like you'll actually kind of add times to this, right? Like at 6:30 in the morning, I'm going to make a cup of coffee and go sit out on my front porch. And that's my daily joy. And you build these into your day and you make a conscious decision that that's what you're going to be doing. Now, for at least 30 seconds during this activity, but hopefully you'll expand to more to get going, I want you to pay attention to the physical feelings within your own body while you're doing that activity. So if you're sitting outside, is there a breeze that you can feel? Is there something in particular you smell? What can you hear? But really pay attention to the physical sensations that you have. You can pay attention to how your feet are touching the ground, what the chair feels like underneath your bum, like whatever it is. But I want you to pay attention to the physical sensations in your body. That is going to teach you how to come into this present moment. And when you're doing a daily joy, your present moment is actually perfect. You are focused on gratitude. You are bringing yourself joy and you are grounded in this moment. There's nothing else that is going on other than your daily joy. And you're bringing yourself into a perfect current moment. And when it comes down to it, regardless of whether you're woo-woo like I am or very straight and narrow and logical, it is exactly the same, that the only moment we ever truly have is the present one that we're living. You either have memories of the past or you're imagining the future. But when you are in the present moment, you are truly in the only actual time that you ever get to truly experience. And what is remarkable is that the more you bring yourself back into those moments, the more that you start having remarkably perfect present moments. And so the more that that happens, then truly you are changing your own future. You are becoming more full of gratitude. You are taking care of yourself. And the concept of the type of life that you lead, the way that you see yourself, the way that you treat yourself, the way you talk to yourself is changing within that present moment. And that is a very, very beautiful thing. So if you have any questions, definitely feel free to reach out to me. It's unleashinghappiness@ceciliahendricks.com. If any of this was a little confusing to you or you'd like some clarification, feel free to reach out. If you're listening on YouTube, you can definitely pop your question down in the comments below as well. I don't want you to end up waking up a year from now in the same position that you're in right now. Unless you are truly living a life that you absolutely love, and I will love to hear about it because I think that's amazing and I hope nothing but that for you in life. But if you are struggling, if you are feeling frustrated and feeling down and feeling overwhelmed and feeling tired and just not really sure what direction to go into, this is a great way to start. You don't want to wake up a year from now wishing you had started to take better care of yourself today, because the current activities that you're doing now have led you to the feelings that you have now. And unless you change those, you're going to continue on the same cycle. You have to change those habits, change those routines. You have to remain focused on the life that you want so that you can actually achieve it. You're going to set a goal and start working towards that goal. And that goal is feeling better. It's being more focused. It's having more energy, and it's having more resiliency in your emotions, in the way that you're able to manage your emotions and that you're able to regulate yourself when something happens that's outside of how you want it to happen. And if you would like guidance within that, I am launching a course. When this episode actually launches, the first live session will be at 10 a.m. Mountain Time on this Monday, which is the 16th, when this is actually posting. You can start, though, at a later point. Everything will be recorded and shared within the group setting that you'll be within. But if you would like to join me for the next 6 weeks, this is exactly what we're going to be focusing on: how to take better care of yourself, how to remain focused on your actual goals, how to actually decide what it is that you really want so that you have a goal to work towards, and how to manage your mood so that you can remain focused on the desires that you have and actually achieve your goals. And then you will wake up weeks from now like, oh my gosh, my life has changed. I feel better and I'm getting the things in my life that I want. Because when you focus on your goals, that's exactly what happens. So if you would like to join me, the course is called Focused and Thriving, and it is exactly that. You're going to learn how to be focused and how to thrive. It is all live sessions so that you will have access directly to me if you have questions. This is the transformation I swear everybody is looking for. I cannot wait for this course to get going. I will leave a link down below. If you have any questions about it, feel free to reach out at any point, and I wish you nothing but the best and a very, very beautiful week.